Hello there.
Hello there.
Okie dokie then, my dear friends, hello and welcome back to another Star Wars video. So today we're changing gears just a little bit, and we're going to be talking about what is my personal favourite, animated Star Wars show. I know some fans will insist that the Clone Wars or more Shadow Lord is better than Rebels, and even as a prequel fan I feel like I'm betraying my kin, but Star Wars Rebels is what the kids might call my comfort show. And even though its legacy is one of the most important in all of Disney Star Wars, I mean just look at the way they've incorporated the characters into the Mandoverse, it is still criminally underrated, often overshadowed by other entries into the franchise. But for many of us, it's one of the greatest Star Wars stories ever told. But do you know that the way that the show was originally conceived was very different? The designs of the different members of the Ghost Crew, their character dynamics, and even their ages. And had Dave Filoni approved those versions, I think the show and the way it's received would have been very different. I think the character dynamics, the way we perceive the importance of each individual member of the team would not have been the same. And so in this one, we're going to take a look at a very strange what-if scenario. We're going to take a look at the different characters, their evolutions, and how things might have been different. And we're going to begin with the most extreme example in Hera Syndulla. This design popped up on my timeline once again a couple of days ago, and even though I already knew about this, I'd actually forgotten this was even a thing. Is it bad if I say I kind of like this design? Not for Hera, of course, but as a new character. Dave Filoni is often recycling his older concepts, so if they need another female Twi'lek in Ahsoka Season 2 or something, why not give us a thick queen? No! But to think this was once Hera, that is a bit jarring, isn't it? If you thought the live action controversy was bad, you know, when she appeared in Ahsoka, people were talking about the texture of her face makeup, fans were complaining about the contact lenses, but imagine a world where she looked nothing like the way you know her today. Imagine if Hera Syndulla was smaller, chunkier, and blue. That's right, this is how Dave Filoni originally envisioned Spectre 2. It's so weird to think that this was at one point a serious consideration. She looks like the child of Orn Free Tar. In the art of Star Wars Rebels, there are 6 variants. They considered Hera being chunky, then skinny, and another big change is that originally she was conceived to be much younger, whereas Sabine was going to be older. And not just this, Sabine and not Hera was supposed to be Kanan's love interest. If you're a fan of the modern day Star Wars Rebels, that should make you wince a little bit. That just doesn't sit right. But that was in the original versions. And on the subject of Hera, something I've always found interesting is the story that Vanessa Marshall tells about the first audition, when she didn't know that the role was for Star Wars, but she did have a hunch. Something she once mentioned is that when she did find out, she didn't envision Hera as a Twi'lek. She imagined the character looked like Sigourney Weaver in a jumpsuit. Considering the Mandalorian and Grogu literally did give us Sigourney Weaver in a New Republic jumpsuit, in a really strange way from Vanessa Marshall's perspective, the existence of Colonel Ward is kind of like a full circle moment. Maybe Dave Filoni remembered her remarks. Maybe he said to Jon Favreau, should we try and get Sigourney Weaver in the Star Wars universe? And in a way, she does play a kind of Hera Syndulla-like role. She's a leader, she's a veteran of the rebellion, and I don't think we've seen the last of her. But in terms of Hera, the process of deciding what she should look like was quite a challenge. But right from the start, she was envisioned as a skilled pilot and the nurturing heart of the crew. Moving on to Sabine Wren, my friends. We already kind of know the deal with her, but did you know that Dave Filoni insisted she be the most colourful Star Wars character ever introduced? He wanted her to be an artist, and he also wanted her to be someone who kids got attached to. But now we come onto a character whose design changed so much, it transcends the eventual species he became. Zeb Orrelios, better known as Zeb, another character who's made the jump to live action, who appeared in The Mandalorian Season 3, The Mandalorian and Grogu, and was spotted in the concept art for Ahsoka Season 2 at Star Wars Celebration in Japan. Zeb wasn't always conceived of as a Lasat. In fact, the Lasat species are just a bit of reworked concept art for Chewbacca, but originally Zeb was a rippling blue Snivian, also known in the original Star Wars movie as Snaggletooths. He was a blue Snivian, and then they tried to make him a hammerhead, but neither were the perfect fit. So when in doubt, as Dave Filoni often does, he consulted some original trilogy concepts and decided, you know what, we're gonna go with the original version of Chewie. We're not gonna make him a Wookiee, and quote, it's going to be exciting to develop him as this bizarre new species, and to explain to the audience where he came from, and it's well documented that Zeb Orrelios was one of the trickier characters to bring to life. And by the way, whether it's iconic planets, certain droids, certain alien species and background characters, Star Wars Rebels is littered with McQuarrie Easter eggs. Now we come on to Ezra Bridger. The conceptualization of his character remained pretty consistent throughout the entirety of development. I reckon this is one of the characters Dave Filoni created first. And so finally, my dear friends, but perhaps one of the most interesting of them all, Spectre 1, Kanan Jarus. This is a character Dave Filoni had spent a long time conceptualizing, and the reason is, he's a survivor of Order 66. As such, there is a through line to the prequel trilogy, and one of the best decisions Dave Filoni ever made was linking Kanan to Depa Billaba and inadvertently to Mace Windu. The Shatterpoint line: Mace, Depa, Kanan, Ezra. And Depa Billaba is one of my favorite characters not from canon, but in the expanded universe. It's a true honor to have her be the canon master of Kanan Jarus. In terms of his original design, there are a few notable differences, and while many of these were scrapped, Dave Filoni did end up recycling some of his earliest Kanan ideas in The Bad Batch and Tales of the Jedi, because behind the scenes Dave stated that Kanan and Ahsoka had previously met, long before the events of Rebels, during their times as younglings at the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, and in Tales of the Jedi we do see a younger Kanan, with Depa, watching Ahsoka train. And did you know, my friends, Kanan and Ahsoka share a very important scene that was scrapped from Rebels. We still have the concept art, and the conversation was going to go like this. After seeing Kanan for the first time in many years, Ahsoka was going to tell him that he's always been skilled with the lightsaber, but without training and discipline, those skills fade. A very similar line that Luke says to Grogu in Mando Season 2. Kanan was going to reply, "So it seems. I haven't had to fight with my lightsaber very often. For a while, I chose not to. I was afraid. Afraid to use it," Ahsoka replies. "I understand, but I have been training Ezra as best I can. I want him to be the Jedi that I'm not." And Ahsoka finishes with, "And I want you to be the Jedi you are." So even though these two do share screen time across Star Wars Rebels, this scene would have been very poignant and honestly quite emotional. Two survivors of the Jedi Order of old. But I am happy that Dave Filoni went back to make that episode of Tales of the Jedi. Even if Kanan, Caleb, back then, doesn't say a word, just seeing him watch Ahsoka train is just such a nice bit of connective tissue. What do you guys think? What do you make of the original versions of these characters in Rebels? Share your thoughts in the comments down below. Also, just before you get out of here, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up. That really helps out like you cannot imagine. Make sure to subscribe if you're new. Check me out on Patreon. The link is down there in the description. But until the next one, my dear friends, may the Force be with you, always.